Hey, it's your girl Tieesha, and this is my first story time on my channel. And I thought I would peel back the layers, be vulnerable, and give my viewers an opportunity to see who Tieesha is and how I came to be this person in 2017. And the topic that I want to start with is why I left Christianity. So, before you clutch your pearls, I want you to hear my story and make a respectful decision on how you will deal with people from this day forward who do not identify as Christians in the traditional sort of way. So, some background on myself. When I was younger, my mother took us to church, and we would go to church on the major holidays such as Easter, which coincidentally today is Good Friday, at least still here on the island in Hawaii time. And we will always go to church on Easter. We'll get dressed up, get new outfits, new shoes, and we'll go for Mother's Day, for the Mother's Day dinner, and other holidays such as Christmas and so forth. And into my teenage years, we experienced some financial hardships where the church was there to, well, the churches that we joined at that time, because we had joined quite a number of them each time that we moved, they would assist us with groceries from the food pantry, or they would assist us with Christmas gifts for those who, applied and they met the criteria for that need, which was us. And the last time I remember that happening, I was about 16 or 17, and that's something that I carried with me into adulthood. So, coming from teenage years into adulthood, I joined the Navy, and I went to boot camp. And during that time, that was my first time ever being away from family, just being on my own and being in an unknown place. So, like a lot of other veterans or people who are still in, when you're in boot camp, the only break you got from the common term drill sergeants who are always yelling at you and just giving you pure hell was to go to church services on Sunday. And I'm not saying that everybody did that, because there were people who were devout in their denomination and stuff like that. But me at that time, it was like, oh my gosh, I can get a break and just have a clear head for a second. And once I started going to chapel that was on base, I just really enjoyed the freedom. Yet at that time, I really needed the support of something telling me that I had it in me to make it through this process, that this process was not meant to destroy me. It wasn't impossible, that I can do it. And I found that at church. And I made friends with another sailor who was just so kind, and she was very involved in the church. And she seemed to not let the stress of being in boot camp weigh on her. And what was inside of her that kept her going, I wanted that. And I sought that through getting baptized. So I was baptized in boot camp as a traditional Protestant and made it through boot camp. I did not go to chapel at my next duty station because I didn't know where it was. But I kept that faith with me. I kept the little pocket Bibles. Some of them were like bright orange. Some had the camouflage fatigue on it. I always had a couple of those, and I kept a couple of rosaries. And that's what kept me in the faith. So as I continued on, I went to a church as soon as I got to my first actual duty station in Virginia. And it was kind of odd. Like, here I just got to this place, and someone invited me to their church. So I only had what was in my sea bag and a book bag. So I went to church. I put on my dress white uniform. Here I am. And I was an E1. But when I went to this church, I felt as though when I walked in there in uniform, it was like everyone saw dollar signs, like ching, 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 ching. And they passed the collection plate about 4 or 5 times. And it was when you had to get up to go to this offering. At that time, that I was not familiar with that at all. So I had some cash in my purse, so I would give a couple of dollars here. The collection plate would come back around. I'll put a couple of more dollars in there, and it'll come back around again. And so at that point, I just had the change left. So I put my change in there. And then there was a part where you get up and go put your offering in the front of the church. So here I am, the only person dressed in, navy, what do they call them, Cracker Jacks, all white. So I'm like, if I sit here and don't get up, I look bad. So I had a pack of gum. So I was chewing on the gum during the church service. I had 2 sticks left. So I got up and I put my stick of gum in the collection plate, and I kept my other one just in case the collection plate came around one more time. I was going to put that last stick of gum in there. And that's when I'm like, oh my gosh, that's when I figured that I couldn't afford to go to church anymore. I was an E1, and you can look up the pay scales for Navy E1s online and see how much you don't have. So at that point in time, I didn't go back to church for a while. And when I finally went back to church, I would say it would be about 2 or 3 years later. I was already a mom at that time, and I had met a lady, and we're actually still good friends on Facebook. She was the daycare teacher that my son was in. And while the children were taking a nap, one day I came to pick him up early, and she was reading her Bible, and she was just always positive. And again, it was like whatever was in her to not have her showing the stresses of the world, I wanted a part of that. Want to be a part of that. So I asked her what church did she go to, and she invited me, and I absolutely loved it. I loved it. We actually joined our first time visiting. We joined the church, said this is it. And I stayed with this church for a couple of years. This church kept me together during some times when I felt like just falling apart. And the members of this church actually came to my graduation. I had transitioned from the Navy into a civilian job, and I didn't have any family in Virginia besides my son, and everybody else I knew was deployed. The entire church, this was a Wednesday night, I'll never forget it, a Wednesday night when I finished this program for my civilian job. The entire church canceled Bible study, and they were there cheering me on as I accomplished that great task. And so that was about it. Work kind of got in the way of church. However, I would find time to go when my days off allowed me. And I make sure that I continue to, fund every drive that the church would have, because, as I said, I was a product of the food banks. I was a product of toys at Christmas time, things of that nature. So I never lost that within me. However, around 2011-ish, 2012-ish, that's when I started seeing a lot of stuff where I think Creflo Dollar had got arrested. And I was like, what in the world is going on? And then at that time, religion in the church kind of became like a cult. It was instilling a lot of fear in me at that time, where they were saying like Beyonce had did the Super Bowl. So they were saying like, if you watch the Super Bowl, the devil is in you, and the new world order is coming, the world is ending. And I was just like, what in the hell is going on? So then it confused me, because also at that time I would see these advertisements for Super Save Super Bowl or something like that, where the gospel singers, they would do this huge performance for the Super Bowl. So I'm like, okay, well, if you're telling me that if I watch the Super Bowl, I had the demons and the devils inside of me, but over here it's Super Save Super Bowl, what's going on? What's going on? So that's when I became really confused. So I took a step back from church. Took a step back, but I was still, involved, but from a distance. So I realized that at that time, I was really scared. I thought everything would put the demon in me. The internet would put the demon in me. I was listening to Alex Jones and if you wear I don't know, if you wear Jordans, you got the Illuminati in you. That's when all that stuff was happening. They were saying that Obama was the devil. I'm just like, it really scared the hell out of me. So I took a step, well, actually, because I was so scared, it made me run into the church. I'm like, I'm so scared, I want to be God's chosen people and not die. I ran into it. So once I got really into the Bible thumping mode for a little while, I came across this business, this store back in Virginia. And the owner of the store, he kind of sensed like, okay, y'all coming in here on some Christian stuff. So he posed questions. And I never claimed to be the super saved saint or to know the Bible cover to cover. I didn't do that. So he presented some questions for me to take back and ask, my pastor, ask the people, and nobody could answer them. So I was like, oh, wow. Okay, so here I am walking around saying that I know this book and I don't, and nobody wants to give me answers. And at that time, I had enrolled in a Catholic university. So when I was taking this class, it was a class on Catholicism. And the first time I took it, I had the Bible mentality where I'm a Bible thumper. I know God, I know Jesus, and I'm going to try to convert all y'all. I was so close to failing. Before I got that final grade, I withdrew out that class. So after I refused to take anything religious for a while, although it was a part of my program. So I was thinking about the questions that was posed, like, hey, if Jesus supposedly died on Good Friday and he rose 3 days later, why do we celebrate on Sunday? Why do we celebrate it on a different day every year? I couldn't answer those questions. And so I was watching TBN one night, and I forgot what the guy's name is that run him. He said that the people in Haiti were evil because that's why the hurricane came and got them. And that just hurt my heart because I'm like, well, it was children that died. Mothers crying over their children and they're begging for help. And you're saying they're evil and that they deserve that. So I had to really think about Christianity at that point, because who goes and laughs in a parent's face like, haha, you lost your children or you did this? Like, you just don't do that to people. And no one ever came to me when my family was down and out and said, well, because you're going through this is why this happened to you. And I just felt that was just so unfair. So I had a choice to make. And that was around the time where, I'm sorry, I have my notes here. That's the time I decided, like, I don't think I want to call myself a Christian, because that's just not the way to be. Also, something that really stuck in my mind from being a little girl, I know we all, well, if you are my age or just anybody, you know the story of Tina Turner. Tina Turner grew up in the church singing, and she was a church girl, and then she went through her domestic violence situations. It wasn't until she was introduced and found Buddhism that she found her strength, her power to overcome that adverse situation. So I've become a firm believer that people have the right to choose what to believe in and what empowers them and keeps them doing good. I mean, not everybody has to be threatened with burning in a fiery pit forever to make you do right and be a genuinely good person. So no one has written off Tina Turner. Everybody loves her music. Everybody puts on pantyhose and high heels and just get their inner Tina on. So there's also some other people who have denounced the organized religion that they were, indoctrinated into from a child. For instance, you have Donald Glover, who was brought up as a Jehovah's Witness, who later denounced it. And you also have Oprah. I remember there was a show on Oprah, and I might put that clip in here, that she said that God is like a universal presence. It's not just one thing, and it's the clip will explain it better than I can say.
But anyway, it talks about, one of the points it brings out is one of the mistakes that human beings make is believing that there is only one way. to live. That's and right. That we don't accept that there are diverse ways of being in the world, that there are millions of ways to be a human being. And many ways, but many paths to what you call God. And her path might be something else, and when she gets there, she might call it the light. But her loving and her kindness and her generosity brings her, if it brings her to the same point that it brings you, it doesn't matter whether she called it God along the way or not.
And I guess the danger.
But after I took off the Christianity glasses, it really made sense to me. And so to this day, I don't consider myself a Christian. And to go back to a thought that I had, I later took that Catholicism course for my undergrad. And this was with my new eyes. I passed that class and I actually made the dean's list for all of my courses that was related to religion for my undergrad. So I really consider myself now to be sort of an omnist, if that's the correct term. I take a little bit of different spiritual systems and form my own. You know, I do believe in a supreme being. However, I believe in just loving people, spirituality. I mean, if you've never taken a trip to, like Hawaii, for example, where I live, or just somewhere that's just undisturbed and really sit there and look at the beauty of what a higher being created, that's just evidence enough there. But also too, it has made me a person where I'm more respectful and considerate of other people's belief systems. Like if you are, let's say, a Buddhist, or if you are, I don't know, if you believe that I
did it! Najee Ramba! We gonna be all right. We just gonna keep rising, Najee Ramba. I kept the faith. Yes. Everything's gonna be all right. I got a splinter in my head.
Spirituality, astrology, that's unique to you, and I will respect that. I won't automatically say, well, if you don't believe in Jesus, then you are going to automatically burn. I'm going to pray for your soul that God have mercy on you. No, that's not the way you talk to people. You respect them for their beliefs, respect them for what they bring to the table, and see how you guys can exchange and elevate each other. So that is my thing. As far as Christianity, I'm not in it. However, I do incorporate certain things of the Bible, such as Proverbs and Psalms, into my life. But I do not wear that title. But I believe in just loving people, being kind, being generous, and also never forgetting what the church, individual churches did for me. So I'm always a giving person. If I see a person hurt, I'm going to do my best to help them. So before this camera cuts out, I just want to just share this message for everyone, just to respect everyone for their individual personal belief system and elevate each other and grow, and not try to force everybody under this one umbrella. So I hope I didn't lose subscribers or have you dislike, but I'll see you later.